I wanted to use this comment to jump off and talk a little bit about Baela Targaryen and what happens to her after the dance. Spoilers ahead, obviously, for the end of the dance and possibly the ending of House of the Dragon. So the thing with Baela is that she did actually very much want to marry Jace. And she actually wants to marry him while the war is happening. And Jace is the one who kind of says, no, we can't do that right now. And as a side note, people have interpreted that as Jace not wanting to marry Baela, period. I don't think that's the case. I think Jace knew that there was no appropriate way to have a royal wedding while there is actively a war going on. Either you have a really small wedding, which can be used to further discredit them and discredit their cause, or you have a grand appropriate wedding while people are starving and dying around you, which, again, not great. So Baela did want to marry Jace, and unfortunately, as we know, Jace dies. And after the dance, Baela loses almost everything, basically. She's lost a majority of her family, with the exception of her twin sister and her younger half-brother. She loses her dragon, and sort of as a consequence, and because all of this happens when Baela is still very young and she is still a teenager, she goes a little bit wild, and who can blame her, really? She's out drinking with the Gold Cloak, she's racing the streets, she's kind of the darling of the city, as one of the few surviving Targaryens that are left, and because she made herself into a little bit of a war hero, and she always had that element of Daemon's daughter in her, where she is a fighter and she is a scrapper. And she has a lot of suitors, a lot of people who come forward and want to marry her, but she is not interested. She wants to kiss boys, but she doesn't want to marry them. And eventually the council decides she needs to get married, and they're going to marry her off whether she wants to or not, because she could be considered an heir to Aegon III. And people did not like that. She was seen as responsible for having taken down Aegon II in many ways, and she was a woman, so her claim was sort of contested. So they decide that they're going to marry her off to Thaddeus Rowan, the Lord of Goldengrove, who isn't already an old man who has 7 children. And Baela basically says, screw that. She escapes and flees to Driftmark, where she meets up with Alan of Hull, who we have seen, who is her, I guess, uncle. He is the bastard son of Corlys Velaryon. And she decides to marry Alan. Basically, she just hastily elopes with him. Now, I don't think she actually loved Alan. I think she saw him as an escape, as a way to still have a hold on the ancestral seat, which had gone to this man that, although he was a hero, she didn't really know him. And unfortunately, her marriage to Alan does not seem like it was a very happy one. They sort of jokingly argue over what they will name their first child. And as we know, Alan does end up having a long affair with an even younger woman and produces children with her, which, like, not great. So Baela's life after the dance and as a result of the dance, it's just not super happy. Their marriage is not stable. It's just not great. And if the dance had not happened, Baela would have gotten to be queen. She would have married someone she had wanted to marry and someone she had wanted a life with. And it kills me because she's one of my favorite characters, and she is one of the people who is really kind of most ruined by the dance.